Knox Game Design. April 2020. Ludum Dare 46 Kickoff. With Dylan, Jacob, and Levi.
Welcome everyone to Knoxville Game Design for April 2020. This is a monthly discussion of game development topics. This month is a little bit different. We're doing an online Ludum Dare kickoff. So Ludum Dare is going to start in about 2 hours. So we're going to basically just talk about the theme and our ideas and things like that. Currently online we have Dylan Wolf in Lenore City.
Hi.
And I'm Levi Smith in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So one of the things that we were thinking about doing this month, Dylan and I have been talking with the developers in Nashville. So we thought it'd be really cool if we could have like a statewide game jam night and something like that. So I was checking my Discord and I jumped on. So Nashville and also Tri-Cities both have Discord channels. So I kind of popped into the Nashville game developers and I said, hey, good luck. Oh, I need to share this for you, Dylan.
Okay.
Share. And yeah, we'll see who else jumps online tonight. This isn't our typical meeting time. So we're just like, hey, let's get together, just make the Ludum Dare kickoff, since everyone right now is probably aware of all the panic and virus and all that good stuff. So it's like, okay, I didn't know at the time if like our usual kickoff location, Panera Bread, if they would be open or not. It sounds like they're still closed. Sounds like everything's probably going to be closed till May 1st. So it's like, okay, we'll just do it online using our usual Hangouts location. So I jumped into the Nashville Game Developers Discord and said, hey, good luck on Ludum Dare 46. Told them about our kickoff. When Dylan and I were talking to these guys originally, I think they jumped in our Discord and they're like, hey, we'd like to collaborate or have a common area or common Discord channel for like making teams. And I think like myself, I usually just do it solo. But yeah, it'd be cool if we had a common place to get together and talk about ideas and things like that. So it sounds like some of the people are dropping out. We never did get that one central location, so that must be something we work for next time in 6 months for Ludum Dare 47. But Corey Martin, I'm not sure if he's the lead or spokesman of Nashville Game Developers. So he's like, hey, good luck to Knoxville too, and he's also looking forward to like this Tennessee crossover, but he's thinking maybe some other time as well. Just maybe once all the craziness dies down and everything. And he says he's going to play our games too, so that's pretty cool. I think just like collaborating with these guys across Tennessee will be a good thing. He was saying that there's also a Memphis game design. I haven't really looked up Memphis before, but maybe they have a game design scene out there as well. I know the Tri-City guys got a couple of guys. I think Gerald Burke, I think is his name. I think he's the one.
Yeah.
He leads the Tri-Cities.
I think so. Like I haven't necessarily paired up everyone in Knoxville Game Design with where they came from, so I don't.
Yeah, I think this guy is a college student. I'm not sure exactly which college, if it's ETSU or somewhere like that, but he says he's got like final exams and things like that at the end of the semester coming up, so he's going to have to pass on this Ludum Dare. So, but yeah, maybe in the fall, maybe in October, we'll have a big Tennessee branded game jam night. I think that would be pretty cool if we could do something like that.
Yeah, I honestly just I meant to go looking for the Discords, because Corey had actually DM'd me on Twitter about like, hey, would you guys want to do this? And I figured just pointing to the Discord, because
yeah,
different people are doing different things. But yeah, I didn't actually think about joining up.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd be like an in-person type thing, or we all just get on our Discords or do a hangout or something.
I think you could probably. I think you could probably manage it on Discords or something like that, because you really be sharing code and doing like hangouts like we do here.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to like drive out to Nashville or anything.
Yeah,
It'd be really hard to drive out there and do a game jam.
But yeah, I just didn't think about it because like you, I've always worked alone. I think like most of us in the group here have kind of been like that, and so it would be a different experience. But I'd be interested just to see what they're doing out there.
Yeah.
Because I know a few of them through conventions, but I haven't really kept up with everything that's going on.
Yeah, we were talking about John Sensei last time. I think he's out of Nashville, and
yeah,
it'd be cool just to meet those guys. I know I went up to Lexington one time and met their group up there. It seems like they got some pretty cool people up there. I had a question for you, Dylan. Just something I've been kind of thinking about off and on a little bit. So, for the last how many ever years, we've been calling this Knoxville Game Design.
Yeah.
And the website is knoxgamedesign.org. I'm thinking about maybe just shortening the name of the group to Knox Game Design to match the URL. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Honestly, I use them interchangeably, so I don't even think about it that much. Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, it's like, okay, we always call it Knoxville Game Design, and people may get confused, and it just makes the name of the group a little bit smaller, and the intro graphic, it'd just be Knox instead of Knoxville, and that kind of encompasses all of the Knox metro area, I suppose, because like menu, we're not actually in Knoxville, so yeah, I may just change that. Oh, and I've been using your background images or your watercolor paintings. I hope you're still okay with me using those.
No, that's totally fine. I have honestly, like, I started doing an Inktober 52, which was like one painting a week, and I just fell off doing it. So,
yeah, that's got to be a lot to do that every week.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Once you fall behind 1 week, it's really easy to just let it go.
Yeah, there was a site called something.club that I was doing for a while, doing like sculpture images. But yeah, I know you put a lot of stuff out. You post most of these to your Twitter account. And I've been using some of these in the intro graphics and things like that. Now, this one reminds me of the picture on your Flickr of the place in Alabama with the Tory gates.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's actually, I decided to do one. We've got a friend in Alabama, in Huntsville, who was having a birthday a couple months ago at this point. And I just did a version of that in watercolor.
It looks very cool. I like it.
Yeah, that was one, like, usually with the 52 stuff, I just do everything kind of in one sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, with that one, I actually did multiple layers over multiple days, and it actually kind of worked out better.
This is very cool how you have like the reflection here in the bottom.
Yeah, like that's, I don't know, usually I just take like the same colors I'm using, paint the outlines, and then like do a blue wash over everything.
So typically, how long does it take to do one of these?
It really depends. Like, usually I can do one in like an hour or two if it's something simple.
Yeah.
Because I definitely keep a lot of these simple.
Yeah. I guess something like this would take a little bit more time, where you got the more colors you're using and more objects.
Yeah, that's a little bit rougher.
I like Mario.
That took some effort to do, just trying to get it right, because, man, like, you get a little bit off and it just looks wrong.
Yeah, because like things like trees and mountains, if you mess up a little bit, then nobody's really going to notice. But if you mess up Mario, then people are going to say, "Hey."
Yeah, like there's a lot of different shapes to trees, but you know,
This is kind of like a snake here.
yeah, a lot of these, what I do is I just go back into like Flickr photos or something and go, okay, well, this matches the theme. Like the theme for this week was snake, and just try to do kind of parts of that. Like this one was one from Central Park when I went to New York a few years ago.
Oh, okay. I thought this might have been like Ayers Hall at UT or something.
No, this was, I think it's a place called the Arsenal.
Okay.
Like there's a couple different buildings if you go that you can go around to. And that was definitely what I struggled on.
Seems like I've seen this from your Flickr. I think I might have used this from one of the intros. The actual
Yeah, that was one somewhere in. I'm trying to remember. It's somewhere around Tellico Lake in Lenore City. Like the TVA recreation area there, and I had a photo from when I was walking there.
I really like the shapes and the organic type shapes or whatever that it makes. It's like this is stuff you can't do in like Paint or Photoshop or like using a computer generated program.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like I have no idea how to control it. I know like I've bought art from at like conventions and stuff, and there are people who definitely know how to use those sort of bleed effects.
Mm-hmm. I like this one, kind of like how you show your tools, what you use, and
yeah, I'd gotten those. I think I got those for Christmas. It's a type called. It's from a company called Kuretake. Mm-hmm. I think it's like I don't remember how to pronounce it.
Sounds Japanese.
Yeah, I think the idea is the pigments are a little bit different, so you don't have to do multiple layers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's in Roy G. Biv, where you start out with your reds and go to oranges and greens, blues, violets.
Yeah, the name of that is Kuretake Gansai Tambi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Tambi.
Mm-hmm. Tambi. Yeah, I don't know what that means, or if it's just a brand name. This is cool. I haven't seen this. So you got like the Japanese kanji here and the furigana, the actual kana letters. So you know what it means in Japanese, and also in English at the bottom.
Yeah, and the benefit to this is like this comes with the set and it's blank, and then you just like fill it in with the paint, so you can kind of see what different colors look like. And I'm not good at this, so like I think people who are more experienced with watercolor would start out like you'd have like a real dark area and then fade out to more transparent, so you can kind of see the range, whereas this is just like in most cases just like blotches.
So I can't tell looking at this over the computer. So is this like a print right here, or does this come blank and you fill in the colors yourself?
Oh no, yeah, that's blank. Like
okay.
I said, I did that, and so I don't really have the nice gradients, so you can see the range. It's just whatever I got down there.
So it's kind of like just a way to test your... So I'm assuming you have a limited number of colors and you mix them together to get these off colors like cerulean blue and imperial violet and all that.
Yeah, these were some I found on jetpens.com. Mm-hmm. And I think this was like the 48 palette set, 48 color set. You can get smaller palettes, and then they sell refills of some of the different colors.
Oh, okay. Very cool. There's another.
Yeah, I think that was the first one I did with those. Yeah, just to kind of test them out. I've not done enough watercolor to actually tell a huge amount of difference. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know you did a lot last year as well. Oh, yeah, and I finally found out that I think I ordered a couple of these off that, was it Redbubble?
yeah,
I can't find the link to your Redbubble. I know it's on here somewhere on your Twitter, but if anybody wants to order any of these, you can go to Redbubble. And oh, here it is, redbubble.com/people/Dylan Wolf. And then you can order various different types of prints for these, and they come out pretty good.
yeah. I think I bought a couple from a friend's Redbubble, and they're pretty good quality. Like, you kind of have to, once you upload something,
Yeah.
you kind of have to play around with it to get it right, and by default it'll just dump like your image on a bunch of different products.
Mhm.
So like this one I just didn't turn off. Sure, like
I like the bed sheets.
I was like, I would never buy that from a print-on-demand site, but it's just like there's so many of them. You might as well just leave it on, or even if you don't mean to leave it on,
Yeah.
or even if you mean to turn it off, you're gonna forget one.
And I'm sure you get a cut of like whatever you sell, right?
Yeah, I mean it's print on demand, so you don't get a huge cut. You can kind of adjust the price. I just leave whatever the default cut is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you were gonna do these professionally, you'd want to buy prints from like Vistaprint or someplace like that.
Oh, okay.
Just so you get a bigger cut of, like you take
sell.
on the risk of holding all the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that reminds me. Give me 1 second here. Okay, let me pull this back on me.
for what it's worth, there is the I posted the link to the set in chat.
Okay, yeah,
I was using.
I'll grab that and then add that to the notes. So copy that and paste that there. Okay. So let me get rid of this. Hide. So I got the new I believe I got this done in Vistaprint, the new Knoxville game design brochures. It's kind of like the ones that we gave out at the previous cons and things like that. It doesn't come out too well on the webcam. It comes out backwards. But if anybody wants one of these, just let me know. I was thinking about going around and like different places and dropping these off, because these were like the most popular things at the conventions that we did. So I think I got 50. I think I got 50 of those made up. So we have them. Yeah, I guess we need to get a new picture somehow, because I know. Yeah, some of us look a little bit different than we did the last time the picture was made. But,
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but we got a couple hours to kill. So Dylan and I were talking. Maybe if we don't have enough to fill up for 2 hours, maybe we'll reconvene a little bit later.
Yeah. Or actually, I guess we could go through the final voting round of themes and
Let me
talk about
share screen, share, and I think I had some of those up here. So LD Jam. So this is Ludum Dare 46. This is actually my 21st one that I've done, and I know Dylan, you've done quite a few of these as well. I think you started out around 27 or 28, but yeah, they do these biannually now. And if you're interested in doing Ludum Dare, I guess I haven't given the whole spiel and everything. You can go to ldjam.com. It's a game jam. You do it in either 48 hours or 72 hours. So there's two different versions of this. The 48 hour, you work alone, you work solo, you create all the assets yourself, which include like art, music, sound effects, and all that good stuff. And you're supposed to start from scratch. However, there are some people kind of bend the rules about this. They say that you can use like existing libraries and code bases. So I think some people are pushing the pushing the limits of the code base, because you could basically create your whole game beforehand and then plug in whatever theme it is into it. But I don't know. So anyway, you're supposed to create everything from scratch if you are doing the 48-hour classic jam. And I think that's how this started out, as a 48-hour jam. Then somewhere along the way, a couple of years later, or a few years later, they created the what is it? Is it jam? No, that's the compo version. They call it compo as the 48-hour. Then the jam is the 48-hour or 72-hour, which is 3 days. It's a little bit of a misnomer because I consider both of them jams. But the 72-hour version, you can work on teams. There's tools they built into the LD Jam website now where you can form teams. So each person, their name appears on the entry. So you create your game. It has to be hosted on your own site. Well, let me put that a different way. They don't host your game on the Ludum Dare site, so you have to find your own place to host your game. Fortunately, there's places like itch.io and GameJolt which will host your game for free. I think there are limits, like it can't be more than a gigabyte, but I've never made a game that I haven't been able to load up to itch.io or GameJolt. I guess some other ones are, what was the old Flash one? Newgrounds. I guess you could put it on Newgrounds. I haven't seen too many on there. Or if you have your own website, you can host it yourself. But I do kind of like itch.io just because you have your game up there with a lot of other Game Jam games. One thing that Dylan and I have talked about is like, well, don't expect people to find your game through itch.io, but it is a good place to host your game.
Yeah.
And as always, I may have already said this, but if you have your own website, you can always post it on your own website, which is what I've kind of been doing. I've been kind of posting it to my own site and itch.io at the same time. So I think that covers the overview. Oh, so after the 72 hours or after the 48 hours, then you create your entry, you post screenshots, and then other people will play your game, and hopefully you play their games. I think there's a requirement that you play around 20 other games in order for you to get a rating. And these games are rated on, I think, 5 or so different categories, such as art, audio, fun, innovation, mood, and then there's an overall rating. So you get different ratings in different categories from the other people who have also submitted entries. So it isn't like you can go get your mom or whoever to play your game and give you a rating on it. They're still welcome to play your game, but they also have to submit an entry too in order for them to get a rating. Then after like 3 weeks of rating, then they'll come out with the results. And I think they just put all the games in order for the different categories, so you can, and also on your game page you can see where you finish. Which I don't put a lot of like stock into the ratings because anybody can rate anybody's game, but it's kind of fun. But yeah, if you go to ldjam.com. And then you click on the very top. I wish they had this expanded by default, but you can click on Welcome to Ludum Dare 46, and it'll it'll give you the rules, kind of like the stuff that I just talked about. But it goes into a little bit more detail on what's considered a derivative work and whether you created something originally and not, and things like that. You can also stream yourself making your game on Twitch, and if you put it in the right categories with the right tag, then it will show up on the side here where you can see where everybody can see everybody making games over the weekend. And one thing that used to be pretty popular was making time-lapse videos. So if you do record yourself making a game over the weekend, then I wrote a little Ruby script that uses FFmpeg, which extracts all the frames, like one frame every 30 seconds, and just mash all those together to create a time-lapse video. You can also use things like, one that I use is Elements. It's not Photoshop. I got
Premiere?
Premiere, yeah. Adobe Premiere. So you can also put your whole video into Premiere and just scrunch it down and fast forward it and say run it at 400% speed and things like that. So there's different ways to do that. Then I usually go back in after and overlay music on top of it. Oh, and one other thing about the difference between the 48-hour and 72-hour versions of the jam. And the 48-hour, you're supposed to share your source code. So you can post it wherever you want to, but when you submit your game entry, then there will be a field that you can add where it says source code, and then you just put a link to your source code right there. So I think the whole purpose of this, like Ludum Dare literally means, I believe in Latin, to give a game. And part of that giving of the game is also to give source code so people can see how you actually created this game. But I think in the 72-hour jam version, you don't have to share your source code. I could be wrong about that. You may have to share it regardless, but from what I remember, in the jam.
Yeah, I don't know that I was going to say, I don't know that I've done the jam. No, I think I've done the jam once before. I think typically they like you to, though. Like,
yeah, I think so.
That's kind of the idea of like being able to use code and stuff beforehand. It has to be something that is publicly available, either free or paid, so that everyone's kind of on the same playing field.
Yeah,
like you're building your own private engine somewhere, and then using that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like you said, I think you just have to make a post beforehand and say, hey, I'm using this engine or I'm using this code base. But it's like nobody's really policing any of this. and
Yeah.
that's the other thing about Ludum Dare is there's no prizes. They always say the prize is your game. So it's kind of like just a way to get people to finish something in a weekend and just do something from beginning to end. Because I know, like, I have a lot of projects that I start and never do finish. So this is just a good way. It's like, hey, a few times a year just to create something from start to finish in a weekend. They also do keynotes, and I was trying to add up this binary earlier. I think it's like 113 or something. But this guy, Will Blanton, I haven't watched this yet, but usually before each Ludum Dare, somebody does a keynote and just basically goes over everything that I just went over, like some of the rules and how to prepare. Some people like to talk about what snacks they're going to get and when they're going to sleep. And that's one thing that a lot of people say is like, well, make sure you sleep and make sure you get some fresh air over the weekend, and because if you don't, that's bad. So usually they have real world meetings, which is kind of like what we're doing now, but because of all the virus craziness and all that, everything's shut down. We're just kind of doing this online. But if this is popular, then maybe we'll keep doing it. But it's kind of good to get together once in a while anyway. Okay. So over the past few weeks, they have theme voting, and each of these rounds usually goes for a few days or a week or so. So at the very beginning, they start out with a theme slaughter. So everybody in the world, they submit like 3 of their choices for theme, and then there's voting on those themes where you say, I like it, I don't like it, or it's like not a theme or slaughtered or something. So basically after that first round, that first cut, then they come up with, I guess, 30 or so themes that go into these rounds of voting. So for after each round, people vote them up, down, or neutral, I think. And then after the first three rounds of voting are finished, then they have the final voting round. So am I not logged in?
No, no, it actually shows you as logged in.
Yeah. Well, it's
You might have lost.
Okay. Some reason it forgets that I'm logged in or something here.
Yeah, it didn't like it never remembers me, so they may just have a really short like timeout.
Yeah, maybe they set their cookies to expire like after an hour or something. So if you're ever on the Ludum Dare site and things don't look right, just shift refresh, and that should fix things. So yeah, I guess we can talk about the different themes here. So Dylan, you said you voted on these as well.
Yeah.
So the first one we have is Dreams. So I upvoted Dreams. I'm trying to remember if they already had Dreams, because I remember doing a game that was Dream World, but that may have been a different theme.
Yeah, that could have been. I know they've done a couple like that, like Parallel Worlds and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think that was it. It was Parallel Worlds. So the one that I did was called Dream World. That was the one with the little teddy bear guy. Yeah, so I think Dreams. It's like, well, you can do a lot of different things with Dreams, and that's a theme that I like, where it doesn't really pigeonhole you into doing a certain type of game, and especially when there are some themes that like dictate the mechanics of the game. I usually don't like those.
I actually tend to go the other way. Like I downloaded Dreams, I think. Yeah. Because honestly, like broad topics are really hard to work with for me. Like I want something that pretty soon after the theme is announced, I can go, okay, I know basically what genre I'm doing.
Yeah,
but
that reminds me, like back in the day, back when we did meet at the tech co-op, we'd find out what the theme was, and like as I was driving back from downtown Knoxville back to Oak Ridge, that would give me like 30 minutes just to think of what type of game that I want to do. And I will admit, like there have been a few of these where I kind of knew what type of game I wanted to develop, and then I would shoehorn the theme into it.
Yeah, I've done the exact same thing. I think it's just a matter of, dreams kind of like vague categories like that kind of gives you the freedom to work within them and kind of be more creative. More specific categories tends to kind of put you in a box, which means you kind of have to think around it. But for me, like, I don't have as much of like the blank page syndrome where it's like, oh, what do I do with this if I've got direction?
Yeah, and I do think that does open up things for like people, I don't know, not playing by the rules sometimes. Because I have seen games like, say the theme was cats, and then I would see a game, it's like, oh, here's a space shooter, and I put a cat in it. It's like, okay, we know that you didn't have this in mind. But I guess that's perfectly fine. Like we say, I mean, it's all for fun anyway.
Yeah, and like if you're really worried about voting, there is a theme category. So if you just make a really weird connection there, you're probably not going to score very well in theme.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally forgot about the theme category. So the next one is You Are the Power Source. And I put this as neutral just because, or a 0, just because I don't know what I would do for that one.
I don't know exactly what I would do for it, but it definitely lends itself more to like a puzzle game or something where, like the player's avatar or cursor or whatever, does something in the game world more than just a normal platformer or top-down adventure game would do.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of like your Retro Future game, where I did like a resistor game where you have the power source and you connect things up to it. So I guess you could do something like that.
Yeah, and that to me, like that almost seems like you plug it into a genre of game where you've actually got a player character.
So the next one is turn a violent genre non-violent. It's like I didn't even think about this. I was just like downvote that.
I actually upvoted that just because it's a different theme. Like it forces you to kind of think about how you use theme in connection to mechanics. Because in a lot of cases, like if your game is very dependent on theme, like or mechanics, like theme can just be a very very thin layer on top of it, which is fine. It doesn't have to be, and I think that kind of forces me to go like, okay, let me use theme in a way that I'm not used to.
Yeah. So it just seems like over the last decade or two, we've been taking non-violent games and turning them violent. I guess I'm thinking like Super Meat Boy is like, okay, well we have all these platformers, so now we're going to just make it a lot bloodier. So this is kind of like the reverse of that. So I guess you got to start out with a violent. So maybe you could have zombies that hug each other or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Well, I'm thinking like first-person shooters would be good. Fighting games would be good. I'm trying to think of what else has like certain styles of RPG, like Diablo style RPG. Those are typically very violent.
Yeah. I'm thinking like Mortal Kombat 2, when they had the friendships at the end. Instead of cutting the guy's head off, you give him flowers or something.
Yeah.
So the next one is Abandoned World. That's kind of a tongue twister there. So I don't know. This just seems kind of like a standard. I upvoted it, but maybe I should. I'm leaning more toward a neutral on this one, just because there's been so many post-apocalyptic games, and I don't know. It's kind of like I've seen it. I've seen it before.
Yeah, I did actually upvote it though, because you're right. Like there's a lot of kind of applications of that have already been done to death. I've upvoted it just because it was like, hey, that means I don't have to worry about, I can come up with a setting that I don't have to then populate with a bunch of characters and spend a lot of time on, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it is kind of an open-ended theme, so you could do a lot of different stuff with an abandoned world, but I just see a lot of like post-apocalyptic games with that one. But yeah, you could do any type of genre. You could do a shooter, you could do a first-person thing, you could do a puzzle game, whatever with that. 1 minute to... Oh, and yeah, that reminds me. So one of my criteria for upvoting and downvoting themes, which I think a lot of other people do as well, if a theme is like really close to a previous theme, and they used to actually put like a designator next to these, like, oh, we already did this in like Ludum Dare 28, and that's kind of how I feel about 1 minute to prepare. Seems like I can't remember if it was 1 minute or 10 seconds. It may have been 10 seconds. So
I think it was 10 seconds because I think that was the first Ludum Dare I ever did.
Yeah, you did the balloon popping game, right?
Yeah, just something simple so I could kind of get a feel for things.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, this is kind of like one that limits you on mechanics. So it's like, okay, you got 1 minute to do something. So,
yeah. I also like that it kind of... This theme, like I upvoted it again because it really helps with scoping down. Like if your game has to do something in 1 minute, then you don't have a lot of time to play with other, like play with really complicated systems.
Yeah, and that's something I forgot to mention earlier. So if you are doing a Ludum Dare game, it's a lot of times it's better to make something. I think 5 minutes is a good rule of thumb. It's like make your game playable in 5 minutes, because usually people aren't. If you got to play 20 of these games, people don't want to spend an hour playing 20 different games. But
also, you've only got a weekend to work on it, and if you're building like a 20 to 30 minute game, that's a lot you have to prepare and test and design and all that.
Yeah, so I think shorter is the better. You don't want something that only takes a minute. So I could see like having a game in 1 minute chunks or something. But I think this could be cool. It's like, hey, make a baking game or something where you got to get the components to make a cake and you got to do it in a minute, or I don't know.
Yeah, it also feels like you've got. I've played a little bit. League of Legends has a game called Teamfight Tactics out now. That's like an auto chess battler where you essentially trade cards to get new heroes and then arrange them on a board, and then you just let it. You stand back and let it play. And I think that's kind of a genre that would work really well with this. Where okay, I'm going to make a bunch of moves and then see how that resolves.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, I haven't played Teamfight Tactics. I think I've seen video of it on Twitch. So what you're saying, basically, you kind of just like set up what your I guess your different guys or whatever. Then you press go, then it just plays it out for you.
Yeah, it's multiplayer, so you're rotating around through like 7 other opponents, trying to essentially take each other out, and you lose life every time you lose a battle. But yeah, it's really like set collection, kind of almost a card game in some ways.
But it's not like you're playing every turn. You just kind of set things up and press go, and then it does it.
Yeah, like you set things up, you wait. You have a certain amount of time you can do something. You set things up, and then after your preparation time is up, I guess in this case, it does what it's going to do, and you see whether you actually had a good strategy or a bad strategy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to play that someday. Okay, so the next theme is Decay, and I upvoted this, but I'm kind of neutral to it.
I downvoted it, but I'm also kind of neutral to it. Like it very much suggests like a mechanic where you're going to have like a timer on something, and when that timer runs out, it goes away.
Yeah, I can't think of anything for this. It's like, well, like a decaying plant, or I would have to think for a while on decay to come up with something for that. So the next one is side effects. I downvoted side effects. It just seems like it would be kind of hard to, I don't know, work that into a game. Yeah, I don't know.
I actually did upvote it, but I was kind of on the fence about it. I think there are ways, like, again, this to me suggests a puzzle game that if you do X, it also does Y. And you have to, Joe did, I can't remember what it was called. The light game where you were lighting up the tiles.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like you pick 2, then it would affect the tiles around it.
Yeah, that's almost what I would look at as side effects. Like you do something that has some other unexpected effect that you have to account for.
Yeah, I think that one reminded me of the game. I think it's called Revizi. It used to be on Windows where you kind of flip things and then it would affect all the other like tokens around it and things like that. But side effects, I'm kind of thinking like I don't know. I'm thinking of like a monster type thing where you take different potions and you get different side effects. I don't know. I would have to think about side effects for a while.
Yeah, it's not obvious.
Yeah, or it could be like side effects in code, or yeah, I don't know. I'm downvoting that one. Fragile. I think Fragile could be cool. Like I know how to do like cell fractures in Blender, but as far as making that like the main mechanic in the game, like maybe you would have a waiter and that would be a cool game. So have like a waiter and he's got all these glasses on his little plate and he's got to kind of like balance it on his plate, and you got like people running around the restaurant and you're trying to avoid bumping in to the different obstacles, and if you do bump into something, then you're the thing that you're serving, the glasses or whatever, will fall off and shatter.
Yeah, I definitely think it has. This was another one I upvoted, but I was kind of on the fence about. I think if you interpret it really vaguely, what you get is, like you're saying, games where it's kind of a thematic element on top of a mechanic. You could have games that were kind of physics based, where you're trying to balance stuff, like you're saying, or even if you interpret it really loosely, it's almost like kind of weakness, like one hit will kill you type of stuff.
Yeah. So he could be like a really old man or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess fragile, I'm also thinking like whenever you get something in the mail that is fragile. So maybe you could have a game where you're delivering mirrors, or you're a delivery man and you got to deliver the mirror to the house or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do with fragile. Okay, so next one is outdated technology. So this kind of reminds me of the one that I did what was it? I did kind of like a Zelda game, but you played like the Anubis guy, and so you're basically in ancient Egypt, and it's like ancient technology. So it's like, okay, ancient technology, outdated technology. Have we done that one before?
I can't remember. I think it was ancient technology, which it's similar, but I also read that as very similar to, well, no, it's similar, but I read that as different than ancient technology. So ancient technology is like, how they moved blocks to build the pyramids or something, whereas
it was ancient technology.
Yeah, like, whereas outdated, I can think of like, a personal computer for the 70s or 80s.
Oh, yeah. Or like a rotary phone type thing. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. So, or you could do something with like VHS tapes, or collect the VH. Maybe you work. Now this would be cool. Maybe you work at Blockbuster Video, and it's like a movie rental type games, and customers come in, and the movie they don't have is in stock, then they get angry. I don't know. So
yeah, and that's a good, like, this is one that is suggesting more theme than mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Okay, so I downvoted that one, but I'm kind of warming up to that one now that I think about it. The next one is Ruins. So I upvoted this just because I thought, I was like, hey, this is kind of like an open-ended one. You could do a lot with Ruins. You could do like a game in ancient Greece or something like that, or like a treasure hunting game. But I did a GM48 recently that was treasure hunting, so maybe I don't want to do another treasure hunting game right now.
Yeah, but I think this is one that lends itself to a lot of, again, it's kind of the opposite of the violent genre, non-violent. There are a lot of kind of game mechanics and game genres that exist in, hey, you're going to explore a dungeon or something like that. And so it kind of opens up those possibilities.
Yeah, like you could do a shooter through ancient temples, or you can do a puzzle game, or an RPG type thing. I don't know. Yeah, you can do a lot with it. So the next one I downvoted, which is Momentum. But I think with, like, if you are doing a 3D game in Unity, or even a 2D game, I think you could do a lot of cool. I think this is kind of like a mechanic type thing, so you're going to have something, and that's going to affect the momentum of whatever your game object is on this one.
Yeah, it definitely, like, I think I actually upvoted that. I see this as, it could be as something as simple as an infinite runner. Mm-hmm. Like where you're constant, like you have a constant speed, or I guess what I should say is, like, you don't have a zero speed. Like your default state isn't stopping, it's moving.
Yeah, it's just momentum makes my head hurt. I remember taking like physics in college, and I remember like the relationships between acceleration and speed and position. I think they're each like a derivative of each other. And it's like, this momentum just makes my head hurt thinking about like doing all the calculations. But I guess you could make something a little bit more generic, and it doesn't have to be really mathematic or physics involved for momentum.
Yeah, I don't think I ever took physics. Like, I took calculus, but I didn't take physics. So I know those two are like connected.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of one step removed from it, going, well, that's just the speed you're moving. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to suggest, it has to feel to the player like, you can't slow down, or you have to prepare to slow down.
Yeah, that's interesting, because my whole thinking on this theme is based on my past experiences, and it's just like, okay, that was a bad time in my life, like getting through physics, and it's like, okay, I just don't want to even think about that.
It's one of those things, like, I know if I'd taken physics, I would be like, well, it has to, I would know those things, and I would be going like, yeah, well, it has to meet the default definition, or the actual book definition of momentum.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of like Newton's laws. Like, he had 3 laws. The second one is force equals mass times acceleration, and all that good stuff. And it's like, yeah, but yeah, I think it could be a pretty open theme if you don't take it as the specific physics definition of momentum. Okay, so the next one is automation. I upvoted that. I don't know why I upvoted it, but I guess I just thought, it's like, okay, here's kind of an open-ended theme that you could do a lot with. I really don't have any ideas for automation, but I'm thinking kind of like your retro future game, maybe having something and having multiple things tied together in a line. I've always wanted to do like a Rube Goldberg game. It's like kind of like the old Mousetrap board game where you set up all these different things and have them connected together. So I think doing something like that would be pretty cool.
I downvoted automation, but I know there's lots of, like, a friend of mine has a game for his daughter that is like one of those learn to code games for kids. And, you lay out a bunch of tiles and you play down cards to tell someone else, like, okay, turn, go forward, pick up the object, turn around, take it here, jump over the obstacle. And I would almost think of it as something like that. Like, you're doing a really simple, kind of like with the 1 minute to prepare. You put in all your logic, or you build your engine, and then you hit a button, and now it has to automate.
Yeah, I've never played that game that you were talking about, but it sounds like a cool idea. I'm thinking of like where you could have like a board of different places that you can go to. Then you draw like maybe 5 cards from a pile, and then in your hand you'll have like, kind of like you're saying, like go forward, go backwards, play another turn, kind of like Uno or whatever, and then you could play your different cards to go to different spots on the board. I think that would be kind of cool. I haven't seen it done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the whole genre. There's lots of actual physical games that are basically teaching kids how to code, or not directly how to code, but how to think in algorithms.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you could go for with that.
Okay, so the next one is Keep It Alive. I downvoted Keep It Alive, but I guess there's things you could do. Maybe like have like a plant watering game. Like, hey, you got a water bucket and you got to keep your plant alive. You can't overwater it. But I guess you could have kind of like a little, what was that thing, Tamagotchi, where you got the little egg and you got to take care of your little virtual pet and make
sure. I didn't even think about that. That's a good idea, because I downvoted this, and I think the main reason I did it was because it just sounds like you could do any sort of game where your character can die, and that's kind of the whole mechanic. But yeah, you could get way more literal with that and get into like watering plants or Tamagotchi or that sort of thing.
Yeah, because Keep It Alive. Yeah, because I was coming from the perspective is like, okay, of an external thing that you have to keep it alive. But if you're thinking about keeping the player alive, then that's kind of like every game almost, every Mario game and Zelda game out there. But I guess that lets you do a lot of different things with that.
Yeah.
The next theme is garden, which I upvoted garden just because I don't think that's been a theme before, and it seems kind of unique and seems like you could do a lot with it. I mean, I would just hate to see like a million. What was the Facebook game?
Farmville.
Farmville. Yeah, I don't want to see a million Farmville games, but I was like, oh, if I could have a game where I'm like making a Japanese garden or something, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you think of Farmville, but there's actually a lot of different games that use similar mechanics, like Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, Minecraft. You know, there's a lot of games that have some sort of farming mechanic that kind of works like that. So you could play around with that, but then, like you're saying, like with Japanese gardens or something like that, something that's more of an idea than it is a mechanic.
Yeah.
It kind of, like, you can actually use it thematically or aesthetically. You know, because when we think of gardens, there's, you know, lots of different sort of aesthetic things we think of, more than the actual mechanic of planting something in the ground and waiting for it to grow.
Yeah, like gardening opposed to garden. Yeah, I think you could do a lot of different stuff with garden. So, yeah, I voted that one up. But it just seems like to make a good like gardening game that's going to require making a lot of assets. It's like, oh, I got to make, like, if we just take it like at the Farmville level, just like, it'll be like, hey, I got to make graphics for carrots, and I got to make graphics for corn, and I got to make this graphics. But I think it would generate a lot of unique, different types of games too, unless everybody just does the plain Farmville game. Okay, so the last one that I downvoted, last one on the list, which I downloaded, is Connections. And seems like we had one similar. I could be wrong about it. Maybe we were talking about earlier, Connected Worlds.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot with Connections. I'm thinking kind of like Pipe Dream, kind of like the Resistor game, kind of like Retro Future. I don't know, where you make connections on a board and you got to connect different things up. But I guess you could also do... Now, if Connections end up being the theme, I may do like an airport game where you got to go from connection to connection. And one thing that I've really wanted to do is, like, there's this thing called Dijkstra's algorithm. So if you have like a map of all these different nodes in a graph, trying to find the shortest connection between points or between all the points. So I think something like that would be pretty cool in a game, and I've never seen it done before.
Yeah, that would actually be an interesting optimization problem. Actually, like a lot of, I guess if you think about it, like a lot of board games do use connections in different ways. Like if you've ever played Settlers of Catan, you know, you're building roads, and those roads can do certain things. If you've played Takanoko, like you're building connections between to irrigate different hexes of land, and that's another way connections could be used. I'm trying to think. I've played a whole bunch of different board games where you're essentially you're building a network, and building a network is kind of handled different ways thematically.
Yeah. So did you upvote Connections or downvote it?
I did upvote Connections because I figured that would make a good puzzle game.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be that bad. I probably would have voted it neutral at least if I thought about it a little bit more. Yeah, so those are all the themes. So I was just going to talk a little bit about the tools that I'm planning on using. I'm using all these tools aren't necessarily open source, but they are free. So first of all, GIMP, it's kind of like a Photoshop equivalent, and use it for editing graphics. A lot of times I use this for making seamless tiles and things like that. I'm planning on using Unity again. I really don't feel like learning anything new over this weekend. So
Yeah.
Unity's kind of my standby. So yeah, Unity, you can do either 2D or 3D games. Again, this is not open source. There is Godot, spelled Godot, if you are looking for an open source engine similar to Unity. But Unity is free as long as you don't make like over $100,000 or something. And I'll probably, if I do a 3D game, which I'm thinking I probably will, I'll use Blender. There's a new version. So one thing that I really like about Ludum Dare is that before every Ludum Dare, I always go and update all my tools. So I went ahead and downloaded. It's 2.8.2 alpha on here. I forget what the latest stable release is, but you usually just get whatever the latest alpha or beta they have for download on their main page. But yeah, Ludum Dare gives me a good opportunity to update all my tools on my system. And I may use other things such as BFXR, which I have here on the desktop. One other thing. Dylan, did you have any tools or anything you wanted to show off or talk about? What you're planning on? Oh, so are you doing a game? I guess that's the first question.
I honestly, I'd kind of forgotten about this because Code Stock was supposed to be this weekend. Right. So, I probably will, and I will probably, kind of like you're saying, just default to kind of Unity because that's what I'm familiar with. Mm-hmm. If I decide to do something like pixel art, I'll use Asprite. I can find a link for that.
Yeah, Asprite too. I think when I was doing my shooter game, I was using Asprite or however you pronounce it. I think it does cost money, and I know you can get it through Steam, but it's relatively cheap. I know it's not over $100.
Oh yeah, it's like $15, I think. It might be less depending on where you're buying it from. If it's got on sale.
Put it on your wish list and wait for it to go on sale. But it's a really good tool. I like it. You can do layers. You can do animations, things like that. It takes a little while to learn some of the keyboard shortcuts, but once you start getting into it, it's pretty easy to use.
Well, again, it's one of those things that kind of puts you, like pixel art kind of puts you in a box. So it's not like with GIMP where it's like, oh, there's all these different filters and all these different tools I could be using. It's like, even if you don't know a whole lot, you can be productive.
Yeah, the problem I have with GIMP is like it's hard to do original art with GIMP. It's like, yeah, there is like a pencil tool, but typically I just use GIMP for like doing texture. So I go outside and take a picture of the grass or take a picture of rocks, and I kind of massage it in GIMP. But yeah, it can be hard like doing original pixel art in GIMP. So yeah, I definitely recommend Asprite or Asprite, however you pronounce it. So what about music and sound effects? I can't remember what you used for music.
I've used I can't remember what it's called. The tool, I think it was released by the developers of Cave Story.
Okay. Oh, PX Tone or PX
Tone.
Yeah, or PX Collage or something.
I've used that before. It's not like I'm not great with sequencers. It's just like I don't have the kind of the skill set built up so that it's automatic. So I'm kind of fumbling through to build my different pieces.
Yeah, I know one that's popular. I can't remember how to spell it, but it's like Boscus Oil. You can do a lot with that. And I think
I think you mentioned that. I bookmarked it. I don't think I've ever actually gone back to look at it.
Yeah, I know we did a monthly meeting on music. It's been maybe a year or so, but I know we went over a lot of different tools. Now, I'll probably use GarageBand again. No, it isn't. It's not a open source. It's Apple specific. But it does have a lot of instruments, and you can like really twerk all your instruments, and it has a lot of capabilities in it. But the only downside with that is I have to jump on my Mac laptop, do my music there, then I created like a Samba type share on my Windows box, or maybe I just open up a share and then I connect through like a SMB share and then copy it over, which I've kind of got that whole method worked out so it works. I know you have to like create a specific window account and grant privileges to copy it over, but you can always do a USB stick. But yeah, I'll probably do GarageBand again. But I know with both PX Tone and Bosca Seal, maybe not Bosca Seal, but PX Tone, you can like record a sound effect and then import that in, and then you can make different notes using that one sound effect, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I've not gotten that deep into sequencers and stuff. Like, I think honestly, my last couple of Ludum Dare games, I've used BFXR for sound effects and just skipped music altogether, because it's one of those things that's really hard to get right, and it is not in my wheelhouse. So I can get more done if I focus on, coding and things like that I'm better at.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. It's like you can make a game without music and sound effects, and then we submit it. They do have the option of saying, hey, don't grade me in the music and sound effects category. So if you don't have music and sound effects, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you check don't grade me on that category.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was first doing it, I definitely tried to get every piece in there, and that's good experience if you're getting into game development. But it's also one of those things that can burn you out real quick because you can take it way too seriously.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just like, you know what, I like designing mechanics, I like writing code, that's what I'm going to focus on. Yeah, you'll have more fun with it.
You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. It's like, okay, just work on what you can. And I think definitely over the years I've gotten better. I mean, looking back at my Amish Brothers games, like, I could have done a lot better on that.
Well, you're also you've also put a lot of time into Blender, so even the stuff that you you don't think was good was way beyond what I could do, and I've pretty much just given up on Blender or 3D in general, because that's got such a learning curve. I just don't want to put the time into it.
Yeah, and I was doing Blender like years before even Ludum Dare. I think I started with it in early 2000s, because I remember doing I tried to do a BattleBots game in SDL using Blender, and I wrote like my own little. So I'd take Blender, then export that data into an OBJ file. I think it's Wavefront OBJ. Then I'd import all that. But yeah, Blender takes a long time to get into and figure out. And then there's the whole thing, once you know Blender, how to get the Blender stuff out of it and working in Unity. But yeah, I think that's all the tools I'm going to... Like, sometimes I've used Inkscape. I think, Dylan, you've used Inkscape as well, if you're doing vector art.
Yeah. I feel like it takes a lot more effort to do Inkscape well. Like, if I've got a tablet, I can do work faster in GIMP, or I can do work faster in Sprite than I can in Inkscape. Inkscape is I look at that as like, okay, I want to print this at some point, and I don't want to be restricted by like the pixel sizes I've chosen. Whereas, for game development, like, you're never going to have to scale something up like 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, the nice thing about Inkscape is like all the objects is like, if you got a circle, if you blow it up 100 times, it's still going to look like a circle. If you shrink it 100 times, it's still going to look like a circle. The problem I've had with it is like, if I'm doing a Game Maker game, then Game Maker game doesn't know what the heck to do with an SVG, a scalable vector, whatever it stands for.
Graphics.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So what you got to do is you got to export all of those 5 Inkscape files into sprites. Then if you downscale and upscale the sprite, then it looks like crap. And then I know there's like these really weird quirks with Inkscape when you're exporting something to get it to export the right area and the right size. And
yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of any other tools. Like, I'll probably use Bitbucket for hosting my game, but I've been kind of migrating over to GitHub lately.
Yeah, ever since Bitbucket shut down their Mercurial repositories, I just went ahead and moved it to GitHub because that was the main reason I was using Bitbucket. Was because I really liked Mercurial.
Yeah, I remember at the time when I first started doing Ludum Dare, is like Bitbucket had closed or private repositories, where it's like, okay, you upload something to Bitbucket, and then you're the only one that has access to it. Then at the time, GIMP only had public repositories. So if you uploaded to GitHub, did I say GIMP? I meant GitHub.
Yeah.
If you uploaded to GitHub, then your code was out there for the world to see. Now, that's back in the days when I was like, oh, I'm going to make this $1 million game, and I don't want anybody to see my code.
Yeah.
Now I'm 41 now. I was like, okay, I'll just put everything out there. I really don't care about it being closed.
I still have private repositories for things I've released. Like I'll take the Ludum Dare repository, and I'll either fork it or just create a separate copy of the code and check it in for like when I did Retro Future or anything that was based off of a Ludum Dare game. I don't know. Yeah, GitHub has added in. I know they added in private repositories a while back, but you were limited to 3 users. I think they've bumped that up in the last couple weeks, just because people are doing more remote working now, but on their free account.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And they were really easy to migrate from Bitbucket. Like you could literally just plug in your Bitbucket URL and log in, and it would just pull it down, all your commits and everything. So they definitely made it easy. Even
from Mercurial, you just point your Mercurial repository over to GitHub, and will it suck everything in, or? Because I may need to try that.
So I've actually done that for work, because we've moved like where we're keeping our code on things. There are extensions that will let you interact with, I think it's Git from Mercurial.
Oh, okay.
And you can literally even work back and forth. But if you want, GitHub actually has like an import project, that you can just point at Bitbucket. It'll pull everything down.
Cool.
It'll pull your commits, set up a project kind of the same way. It was really painless for me to move stuff over. All I had to do was just kind of, just repetitively plug in my URLs.
Because I could see, like, if you didn't have like an automated way to do that, you could spend like months just, depending on how many repositories you have, which I have like 20 games up there currently on Bitbucket. So that could take, if you had to do that manually, like check out all your code, then check it back in. So it's good to know there are tools, or they have an automated way to do that. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like GitHub is where like all the cool kids are these days, and I know supposedly people, like if you're applying for a job, they'll say, "Hey, what's on your GitHub? What have you programmed out there?" And supposedly some people look at that for hiring and things like that. My only concern is, like, as we all probably know now, Microsoft bought out GitHub, so it's like, do I really want to give all my code to Microsoft? And I don't read all the fine print, and what am I giving Microsoft the ability to do with my code?
Yeah, I don't know. I've not looked into it either. I don't remember who. Like, I guess they were their own company, but I mean, Microsoft and Atlassian runs Bitbucket, and I don't have a whole lot of worry there, because it's not like they're a really big company and there's a lot of code out there.
Yeah.
But it's you could kind of do the same thing with Bitbucket or something else, I think, as far as, putting it on your resume. I think the bigger thing is, several years back there was kind of this parallel between Git and Mercurial, and Git has very clearly won.
Yeah, I think Git was created by Linus Torvalds. I always pronounce his name wrong, Torvalds. The guy who created Linux. And Mercurial kind of came out of the blue, because I remember like when I was in college, and this is going to show how old I am, but we were using like CVS and SVCCS and all that, and then it seemed like there was one after that. Oh, Subversion. So
Subversion, yeah.
And I still use Subversion for projects, not for game dev stuff. But
Subversion, interestingly, actually also Git can interact with Subversion.
Oh, okay.
I've actually done that before.
Yeah.
It looks like Jacob jumped on.
Hey, Jacob, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just doing the Ludum Dare Kickoff. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hopefully next time we'll be able to meet in person, but with the way things are going right now, it's just kind of crazy. So we're just doing it online this time.
Yeah.
So are you planning on doing a game this weekend?
I'm planning on doing a game.
Awesome. So you're going to do Game Maker again?
Probably.
Cool. Yeah, we were just kind of sitting here talking about the different themes, and I guess it's going to be, let me share this out here. Share. Yeah, I guess it's going to be here in about 40 minutes they'll announce the theme, but yeah, it seems like there's a lot of different cool different things that themes out there. Jacob, have you voted on any of the themes yet?
I voted for. What did I vote for? I have it open. I think I voted for "You Are the Power Source," an abandoned world, side effects, outdated technology, automation, and keep it alive.
Cool. You got any ideas of what type of game you're going to develop or anything?
Not right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Dylan and I were talking, and yeah, we kind of just went through each of the themes, and it's like there's some that I liked and some that I didn't, and yeah, so I guess we'll find out here before too long. I miss the old days when you could see the votes for each of the previous rounds, and then you could kind of get an idea of what the popular ones are. But yeah, I don't know which one of these is going to win this time.
And I don't really, the nice thing is I don't really have one that I'm like, oh no, I couldn't deal with that. And I also don't have any good standout themes that I'm just hoping win.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but for some reason I've had I guess with the talk about the virus and all that, it'd be cool to do an Oregon Trail type game. Because I remember in that game, people in your wagon could get different viruses or diseases and things like that. And it's there's never been a really good remake of Oregon Trail. It may be I think somebody did an Oregon Trail where it's zombies and stuff, but not a 3D type game. I kind of have an itch to make that type of game where you're in a covered wagon and going out west or something. But I really don't have an itch aside from that for making any specific genre of games. I kind of feel like I don't know. There's nothing I'm dying to make right now.
Oh, I feel like we've done all three of us have done so many Ludum Dares that we've probably touched a lot of different genres already.
Exactly. I guess I've never made a racing game. I kind of did an RC racing game, but never a Gran Turismo type game. But I really don't have any, and I really haven't touched sports games because I've never really been that interested in those types of games. I think I did one little football simulation, but I can't think of anything else that because I spent a lot of time working on my space shooter, and I'm kind of burnt out on shooters right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I.
Unless you just have like a really good kind of high concept thing for a shooter. Once you've done a shooter, you've pretty much done a shooter.
Yeah.
And I know, at least for me, especially because that's the one I use as kind of a demo, it's really easy to fall into the same patterns of, okay, well, you fire a bullet and it just goes straight, and then you have randomly spawning ships, and it takes a little work to kind of break outside that box for me.
Yeah, I guess that's where you get into is like, okay, can I take two genres that I've already done and cross those together to make a new genre? But you got to be really careful with those types of games because then they become too complex and nobody understands how to play those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of. Yeah, I kind of like the idea, and I'll go ahead and repeat it just because Jacob wasn't on earlier. But with the Fragile game, it's like having a waiter where he's got to carry glasses or something and avoid the different obstacles in the restaurant so he doesn't drop the serving plate or something.
Yeah.
We were talking about garden. Garden seems like we could have a lot of different Farmville type games, or it could be applied. I was thinking like a Japanese garden, which I think would be really cool. Oh, that's something I can show off. Which so next month we'll do Ludum Dare show off, and then I'm thinking the month after that we can do PyGame, which I've been learning Python, relearning Python, which it's starting to grow on me a little bit. Like having all the code and the proper alignment, it's kind of weird, but I found out is like if I have to move stuff around or if I have to add another loop, then I just have to indent everything and I don't have to worry about doing close braces and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But the one thing, I don't want to steal my thunder from 2 months from now, but the one thing that I learned with Python is you want to have everything in classes. And
yeah,
it doesn't have scoping or anything, but so if you're referring to an instance variable, you're putting self in front of all this stuff, which is okay. That's kind of like how you scope stuff. Then if you want to access something in another object, you just refer the object, then dot whatever property you want. So there's really not a concept of a private scope in Python, but this is what I have working so far. I hope it doesn't blast my ears off. Python. So I'm doing Koi Koi, the Hanafuda card game.
Yeah. I know. I remember seeing. You might, I guess, need the .py. Yeah, I've seen screenshots of this. I actually haven't seen it.
So, this isn't too bad. So I started out with just a Koi Koi game between two CPU characters, and I finally got it where I got the player characters. Okay, this is starting to get loud now. So I have the months for each card, which is kind of like the suit right here in the upper left-hand corner. So it just for debugging, just so I don't have to remember, is this a cherry blossom or is this a fern? In the final version, I'll probably just take all of that off, and maybe have an option so you can turn that on if you do like having it on. But let's see here. So I have 6, 1. I need to have an option to sort these as well. 4, 10, 5, 6. Do I have? Okay, so here's 2 6s, so I can drag that one, plop that one there, and then I go over here, flip one, and then I can drag the 10 on top of the 10. So all the instructions for Koi Koi are online. We can talk about that later on the details of the game. But I guess the overall principle is you're taking these cards out of your hand and matching them with cards here on the table. So I've got a 1, 3, 11, 3. I don't have any that match. So I think one step that I'm missing here is I'm supposed to discard here, which I don't have that yet. If you drag it.
Oh yeah, which would just add to the center.
Yeah. So right now I just have it where you click, and so that's the next thing I would.
Yeah, let it strap to your face.
So I have different states right here. So that's kind of how I keep track of what state the game is in. So I drew one from the pile, so I'm going to play that right there. Then it drags it over to my stack. Eventually, I want to have it where these cards are separated into the special cards, the ribbon cards, and the light cards. But I do have over here on the side the current card totals in your stack. So the next thing I need to do with this is take those values and determine the current scoring. So currently I don't have it where you can say, oh, I made a match, I want to koi and keep playing, or I want to stomp. So I don't have any of that implemented yet. But that's the basics of it right now. You can see my debug output right there. So basically, oh, go ahead.
There's one thing I really do like about Python is it's really easy to do introspection on your objects and see, what properties you've got and get that sort of output. So it does make that debug logging a lot easier.
Yeah. Let's see here. The only thing that I really have so the one thing that really stumped me was I was trying to create variables outside of a class, and there's really weird scoping rules for so I was like, okay, I'm just putting everything in classes and access and all like that. But
it's weird. I've never run into that doing Python, and that's usually because, it's probably because I'm doing either scripting or years and years ago I did web programming in it. So
yeah.
I'm not writing as much code as you're writing, and
Sorry, buddy.
But yeah, I'll go into more detail into Python in a couple of months. The one real weird thing is you get this default self passed in as the first parameter. So if you're not used to seeing that, and you're trying to pass two parameters to your function, then it'll say, this function takes 3 parameters instead of 2. It's because you got to add self as the first parameter. But yeah, it's going to show off so I kind of did an object-oriented approach. So I made it similar to XNA and all the other frameworks where I have a draw. Now you don't get this by default. I'm just using this for organizing code. So I have a draw and an update and a init. So the init is part of Python right here. So if you have an __net__, then that will be called. It's like a constructor in Java. This will be called when you create a new object. But the nice thing is that whenever you want to create a new object, you just say, I forget where the code is. In init, you just say, give me a new player. And you don't have to say new or anything like that. But in card, I have draw. So you can see I'm using PyGame here. So I'm using PyGame draw a rectangle. And I preload in all the images of all the cards. Then based on what the current property of the card is, whether it's hidden or if we're displaying the month or if we're doing all these, depending on the type of card it is, whether it's a sake cup or special, we're going to print different attributes on that card just for a hint for debugging. But yeah, it's pretty simple. I think this is probably a couple thousand, 1,000 or 2 lines of code, maybe a few hundred. I'm not sure, but you can get stuff up and running pretty quickly. And I think PyGame is built on top of SDL because a lot of the stuff looks very similar. The event handling looks like it's right out of SDL where you have these event pipe where you pull things off this event queue and handle that. So yeah, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a couple of months, but just wanted to show that off since I've been working on it. So Jacob, did you have anything else you've been working on or anything you want to talk about? I think he's muted right now. We still got about 30 minutes to go. So Dylan, did you want to call it here, or do you want to come back at 9, or?
We can do either way. If you want to,
I'm kind of out.
If you wanted to, we could cut here and just stay logged into Hangouts. And
yeah, I really don't have any opinion. I'm just. Yeah, we could just cut it because I don't think I had anything else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, that's it. I guess the only question is do you want to come back at night or just want to call it here? And we can look at the theme on our own time.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could actually just call it. That might be fine.
Yeah, because we've went an hour and a half already. Hey Jacob, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, do you have anything else you wanted to show off or talk about?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Well,
Sorry.
I think we're probably going to call it here. Call this the Kickoff, and we'll all just kind of look at the theme on our own time, and then we'll get back together in a month and show off the games that we've created.
Okay. I'll see you then, I guess.
Okay. Well, good luck on your game, and
Good luck.
we look forward to playing it. Dylan, did you have anything else you wanted to show off, or? Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Well, everybody go out and check out DylanWolf.com and everywhere else. You can check out my stuff at LeviDsmith.com. And yeah, check out the website, KnoxGameDesign.org, and check it. There's a link to the Discord on there, so definitely get on the Discord and pop in if anybody out there wants to chat with us and things like that. So anyway, until next month, thanks everyone for listening and watching.